This just in, Customs and Border Protection has confirmed 302,034 illegals came across the southern border in the month of December. That is an all-time record high. Let's get into it. What are the impacts and the rest of everything else going on here? Here we go.
Morning, Hannah. So that battle brewing at the southern border between the Biden administration and Texas Governor Greg Abbott, that is picking up steam. Last night, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton actually denying the Department of Homeland Security's request to gain access to that popular park there, Shelby Park along the river in Eagle Pass, where most of those migrants were crossing the border and entering illegally. Now, Ken Paxton saying that the state is going to continue to secure the border. And he's saying that he has a list of counter demands for the Department of Homeland Security that they must meet by February 15th. And that is just one of the reasons why Governor Abbott says he's not backing down here in this fight. And the record-breaking numbers here that we're just getting from Customs and Border Protection is showing what we have been reporting here at News Nation, that more than 302,000 migrants crossed the southern border last month alone. That is the highest number on record. Now, this letter to lawmakers that we're showing you here actually came from a retired assistant FBI directors highlighting the danger of an open border. They sent this letter to lawmakers, including Speaker Mike Johnson, saying the country possesses dramatically diminished national security at this time and advising the borders be secured and those who have come to the U.S. illegally should be caught and removed. Now, those record-breaking numbers, the mayors in big cities calling for help, the battle brewing with Texas, this is all playing a massive part in how voters are leaning on the immigration issue.
We're definitely expecting to see that this administration will do what it's going to take to keep them in power, to keep them in after the November elections. I don't expect that they're going to do anything that's actually in the best interest of the public safety of our nation, because they haven't up until this point.
100% agreed.
Now, President Biden late last night responding to criticism of the border policies and what's going on right now, saying that he convened a team of bipartisan senators to get things done. Now, a bill from the Senate did move forward last night that would give the president powers to shut down the border when it is overwhelmed. Now, the president already has those powers. We know that. But this is kind of a new subset that would be passed here. He's saying if Congress passes it, he will sign it, Hannah.
I don't think that bill is going anywhere. I don't think that's not going anywhere. All right. Here's another. So I'm going to read that article about our stats, but we know record breaking numbers, and September was the second highest month. So a lot of the stuff that we're looking at is because you've had so many illegals come through the southern border in such a short period of time. Now, January is historically a low month. We can look back at years past data. The numbers of confrontations of illegals drop significantly in January. And then historically, they tend to go back up. Plus, we've also had a number of different things down at the southern border that have stopped the flow. Mexico is chipping in. They're doing their thing. They're taking people from the northern end of the U.S.-Mexico border, and they're moving them down to the southern Mexico border. They're actually flying people back to Venezuela. They're doing a little bit. Texas is doing the bulk of the work, still putting the razor wire up, arresting people, sending them back home, doing their thing. And then with the other illegals that are in the country that are being paroled, they are taking them by bus and sending them to Denver, D.C., Philly, New York City, Chicago, anywhere that they want to go that is a designated sanctuary city. And so you've got all these narratives going on, and it's because there's been so many illegals that have come into the country, and they're here. So here is, this is the Iowa Attorney General, and this is a letter that she helped draft, and basically stating to Texas, hey, we're here to support you. We're here to help you. Let's hear what that sounds like.
Well, we've never had to do it before, and the legal issues are simple and straightforward. The federal government must secure the border, and if they're not going to do it, they shouldn't be trying to keep Texas from doing the job that they just won't do.
Agreed.
So the Biden administration says we are doing what we can do, and that Texas is in the wrong here. Texas now, I understand this is back at the appeals court level. What do you think happens from there?
Yeah, well, let me say this too, just to correct the record. We're doing this letter with 27 states to support Texas. We're leading it together with Utah because the Biden administration has been cutting the wire. They even had one situation where they used a forklift to lift it and let 300 people through illegally. So they are on the wrong side of this.
Insane.
This goes back to district court in Texas. We're going to keep on fighting. We need to have a secure border. And I just wish if the administration would put half as much energy into securing the border as they have fighting with Texas over Texas doing the job they won't do, I think this problem might be a lot better off right now.
We got the numbers for December of how many migrants encounters there were, 302,000. That was a record. Do you feel that Iowa are you seeing the effects of this illegal immigration in Iowa itself? I mean, many states feel like they also are border states at this point.
Well, Iowa is a long ways from the southern border, but with the border out of control, every state's a border state now. So we see the effects. We see the drug cartels active selling illegal drugs in Iowa, increased fentanyl that's killing our young people, human trafficking, you name it. It also worries me the number of people who are suspected terrorists on the watch list that have been encountered at the southern border. It's a real danger, a real concern, and the border must be secure.
Will more Iowa National Guard head to Texas?
Well, that's up to the governor we have here. And Kim Reynolds has been a great governor and has been supporting Texas. She has sent folks there to help out. And Iowa stands ready to help Texas do the job that the federal government won't do.
All right. Brenna Burr, the Iowa Attorney General. Great to have you here this morning explaining it all to us.
Go, Iowa. You go, Iowa Attorney General.
Backing Texas. And it's.
You go, Iowa. You go, Attorney General. Just making things happen. So this whole notion that the feds can't do their job because they've got barbed wire in front of them, when you have a record-setting month, literally a record-setting month, and your whole job is to protect the border, what exactly are you doing? I mean, other than what you just heard, the Attorney General for Iowa State, they put a forklift. Could you imagine? Just take those prongs, just lift up the barbed wire. There you go, guys. I mean, that's just nuts. Their job is literally to chaperone these illegals into the country and get them in the system as fast as they can. Rinse, repeat. Let's keep this going. And the vast majority of these folks coming in, it's my understanding, if they had to wait for the normal procedures, they'd be denied at the border. These people are just coming in, giving their name, whatever name that they want to give, and then it goes into a system and they get a court hearing. We don't know anything about them. I mean, we do know that, record levels of fentanyl have come into the country, and we've got criminals. I was going to say there's been a known 50 criminals from the terrorist watch list that have been identified and were caught. And the number of normal criminals not on the terrorist watch list, I can't remember what that number was. 15,000, 25,000. I mean, it's a big number considering, hey, you spread out 25,000 criminals across the United States, give them a handful to each city. And that's not exactly where you want to be with your immigration policy, right? It's just not. It's nutty. And so this whole thing that we have with Congress going on right now in the Senate, it's my understanding that if that goes through, that would still allow 150,000. It'd allow up to 5,000 a day to come through the border before the whole, shut the border down thing gets controlled. So you're still allowing for 150,000 illegals max to come through a month. What kind of nonsense is that? You need to cut that down to like zero. And I know that's impossible and it's never going to happen, but that should be your goal. Not from 302 down to 150. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And you're still allowing 1.8 million or something in a year? Some just absolutely crazy, stupid number. So December 2023, and that is why we are seeing all of this stuff kind of come out, because everybody's reacting to, oh my gosh, Chicago had so many people sent to it. It's just floundering. I mean, let's go. Brandon Johnson he's taking medication because he's had kind of a little mini breakdown because he had too much stress. He had too much anxiety. He was literally having anxiety attacks. Hey, by the way, I'm going to head down to Take Our Border Back convoy. It's a peaceful assembly and prayer. You can check it out at takeourborderback.com. You can also check out the schedule there. They're on their means of communication is on Telegram, and you'll also find them on Rumble. But I've been following that. I want to go back down to the border. There's a few things I want to do. And the fact that this convoy it's going through Eagle Pass, but it's not going to be sitting right at Eagle Pass. It's not going to be sitting right at Shelby Park. It's going to be in a little Comedo, a town to the north, a couple hundred people. But so what's happened in Eagle Pass, and this is what we're surmising, the cartels, the smugglers, know that Eagle Pass is under lockdown. So they're literally moving people to the north a little bit. And the next town up is this area, Comedo. The rally is going to be held on private property. You got some kind of child's deal there, like a kids camp kind of thing, but it's a big property. And so I'm going to go down there. I'm going to take my producer down there. We're going to check it out. We're going to hopefully do some live stream as the convoy comes into Eagle Pass. It should be fun. It's something that I usually cover these protests that are for the other side, right? The losers, the bad guys, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, those guys, people that should, just not be allowed to protest because there's nothing peaceful about their protest. These guys here, you're going to see a lot of flags. You're going to hear some prayer. You're going to hear, those kinds of things. That's what I'm going to go down. I'm going to check out. I'm going to wait for the truckers to come through and see what that looks like. I'll be leaving on Thursday, February the 1st, and returning on Sunday, February the 4th. But it's the Friday and Saturday. That's when we're going to live stream. That's where we're going to do a lot of our footage. So be checking that out. It'll be kind of cool. So the number of migrant crossings along the U.S.-Mexico border has reached a record high. And the whole reason that this is newsworthy is because this is Customs and Border Protection, which is a federal entity, and they are part of the Biden administration, essentially, right? They're run by them. It's Border Patrol. So Border Patrol is come right out and stated, yeah. So our numbers came back, and 302,034. So what's being done at the border during that time period, during December? What were they doing other than just literally helping people across? That's what they were doing. That's why there is a rally going on, a truckers rally going on. Because people are fed up. They don't want to see this. They want to take a stand and say peacefully, hey, no more of this. No mas. This is ridiculous. It's absurd. And it is absurd. I've been, following all the news stories, and you've got, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokesperson, saying, we're taking this very seriously. Very seriously. And you're like, well, which part of it are you taking seriously? Because you just had a record-breaking month. So what angle of this are you taking seriously? And there's bipartisan legislation that's going through. It's in the Senate. I think that's dead on arrival. If it does allow for $150,000 a month to come through, I'd say hard no-go. If it's not a great, super out of the park home run deal, don't take it. I think Trump is right. I don't always agree with Trump, but I think Trump is right on this one. That don't sign up for something that you can't undo for years. In Texas alone, the data shows there were 125,861 migrants apprehensions in that same time frame. It's just thousands and thousands and thousands came pouring through, literally. And so all those folks that Texas shipped off to Chicago, New York City, all of these places, you are seeing the impact now because there's no more room at the end. There's no more room. They're packed out. They're tapped out. And so all of these virtue signaling big blue mayors and governors, they're like, we've got some issues here, guys. Our budget is gone. What are we going to do? And that's what they're trying to figure out now. Hey, our tent's not working out. Could we steal your school gym, even though you guys are studying for the I call them SATs, but they're not. They're the college, SATs, whatever. They're the college admission tests, right? You're going to go take some of those. Nah, the migrants, they need your school. So you guys got to go home and learn the best you can. I know it's only one day. Just learn the best you can. It's only your future. Don't worry about your future. We're working on the illegals who came into the country illegally. So Texas saw the largest portion of those numbers with 71,095 migrants crossing in, the Del Rio sector. That is where I'm headed to, is the Del Rio sector. That includes Eagle Pass, which has become a battleground for the state and federal government. So what's happening there is that Biden is just being manhandled by Greg Abbott. Biden is saying, hey, if we get this legislation passed, the bipartisan stuff in the Senate, then I'll shut the border down immediately. Well, Biden's got the tools. He's had the tools. We had record level low numbers of people coming across the border when the previous administration was in place. And then, it's the whole, you take out the whole stay in Mexico policy and you basically don't enforce any border policy at all. And you've got this ridiculous parole policy where you just let people, parole people out to the wild while they're waiting for their work visa to come in, which is, it's oftentimes like 6 months. It's a long time. And then immigration hearings can take years and years and years. And there's really none of this stuff is set up adequately to know where people are, who they're doing, or what they're doing. The men and women of Customs Border Protection continue to enforce our nation's immigration laws at and between ports of entry and continue to work with our Mexican partners along with our shared border. Customs and Border Protection remains vigilant to respond to the serious challenges we are experiencing across the southwest border, said CBP Commissioner Troy Miller. But you just had, by vigilance, do you mean record-setting numbers? Because the optics of what you're saying to us are just wildly out of line with reality. I don't know how they could be more out of line with reality. It's like when the White House says, oh yeah, we are serious about the border. And I always kind of think, you mean serious about bringing as many people illegally through as possible and just getting those voters into the pipeline? Is that what you mean by serious? Because otherwise, nobody else is taking you seriously because everybody knows you're just lying. You're lying about what you've done and you're lying about what's going to be done down the road. You just don't know. Border Protection continues to use all available resources to ensure the safety and security of our agents and officers and the migrants who are often misled and victimized by the transnational criminal organizations. Well, state of Texas seems to be able to work that out. The numbers are wildly reduced. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Texas is standing up and saying, we're not dealing with this anymore. We're going to bring in as many guardsmen as we need to. We're going to bring in additional help. We've got 27 other governors that have signed on, 27 other attorney generals that have signed on saying basically whatever help you need, we will give it to you. Because if this comes down to the states having to defend their turf, we're in this with you. And you know who's not involved? All these ridiculous sanctuary cities, because they're too busy flitting about trying to figure out which tent works and which one doesn't, how they're going to, not look terrible when they're evicting the illegals out onto the street in the middle of a Chicago winter, in the middle of a New York City winter. Those optics are not good. Let's just hear Border Protection out here. But as we've repeatedly said, Customs and Border Protection and our federal partners need additional support from, no, you don't. You can use the tools that you already had, but you're not being instructed to by your higher ups. You're not being instructed to by current administration. You're being told, make it as easy as possible on these folks to come into the country and we'll help them get set up. That's literally what you've got going on. And our federal partners need additional support from Congress so that we can continue to effectuate consequences for those who do not use established lawful pathways. Are you talking about Texas or are you talking about the illegals? It's hard to say, isn't it? It's hard to say. But so many people would say, they'd have the opinion of, well, 302,000 in a month? In a month? What were you doing? Because even if you just kind of let the situation go and you just took a total hands off, I don't think you'd have that many. So I think the government, the Border Protection, is literally helping these folks, and in greater numbers are coming across. Greater numbers. They're just pouring through. And with them, they're pouring through with drugs. Yeah. Hey, you got some bad hombres in there. We got 50 people, 50 known terrorists on the terrorist watch list have been identified. You got thousands and thousands and thousands of illegals coming through that have criminal records. I mean, we know that because when you have 10 million people come through, percentage-wise, XYZ percentage are going to be, convicted felons. KSAT got a copy of the letter the Department of Homeland Security sent to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton this week, demanding the state to allow Border Patrol agents access to Shelby Park. You know what Texas said? Go fly a kite. You guys aren't doing your job. We're going to do it. Till we have somebody else tell us otherwise, this is what we're doing. We are protecting not only Texas as a state, but their border and the border of the United States and the border of the United States people. To our knowledge, Texas has only permitted access to Shelby Park by allowing public entry for a memorial. Okay, you got a whole bunch of, I think, little white flags in the ground that are memorial to all the people in the park that have died trying to swim across. I think it's like 700, something like that. Okay, so the Border Protection or Texas has allowed in the media. Yep, at Shelby Park you can get a pass, and when I go down to Texas with my producer, we're going to get in there and we're going to shoot some stories in there if we have enough time after dealing with the whole Take Our Border Back convoy. We got a lot going on. And we've also got the use of the golf course adjacent to Shelby Park. Yeah. As this is all going on, it's pretty crazy because you got Operation Lone Star. You got the feds fighting the state. You've got all these governmental entities of Texas. You've got the Border Protection. You've got, all of these folks, rustling around this area. Meanwhile, just south of Bridge Number 1, the international bridge going between Mexico and Shelby Park and, Eagle Pass, you got people playing golf. Maybe that's what I need to do when I go down there. Just play a little round of golf and have my camera out. Oh, yeah, look at my ball went there. No, I just got to ask the powers that be at Shelby Park, and they'll give you a full tour. They'll give us a full tour. So we got the golf course adjacent to Shelby Park because, golf in the big scheme of things, you can't ixnay the golfers, right? All while continuing to restrict U.S. Border Patrol's access to the park. Meanwhile, golfers are doing their thing. Whole thing's kind of ridiculous, but not securing the border to the tune of 302,000 in 1 month. That's the thing that people should be just wigged out about. And if you don't care about America, if you don't care about freedom, then I'd say you don't need to care about this issue because, the president that you probably voted for, he's doing a damn fine job of just letting whomever come in, zero repercussions, and just completely open border policy. And then talking to us, to a spokesperson, telling us that they're taking this dead serious. Seriously, they are super serious about the border issue. It's a big issue. And you know why that is? Because there's an election coming up, and this is the number one topic. This topic has overcome the whole inflation, economy. It's even overcome Chop Chaz. I know that's a difficult one. That was back in 2020. So this is the big one. And so from a political standpoint, the whole immigration and Texas, defending its border, that's become such a trigger point that all of a sudden, and even with the constituents of these blue cities and states, that their mayors and their governors have said, oh yeah, we're sanctuary city. You guys just, send them to us. The constituents of those areas are looking around going, hey, you're spending all the resources on these illegals. What about our own homeless? What about our own veterans? Talking VA, those kind of veterans. What about those folks? How do they fit into this picture? Because all of a sudden we're having to cut our budgets to make this ridiculous virtue signaling, deal with the illegals make sense. Because the budget's only got so much room in it. And if you're spending millions and millions and millions on the illegals, you're not going to have enough for your own public safety, your own homeless crisis, your own VA, all that good stuff. VA is federal. But you get what I'm saying. You're not going to have the money in the budget. You're not going to be able to do it. So this issue has really kind of bit, old Joe Biden in the butt because he can't win. He can't hammer on Texas because then you're going to have 27 attorney generals and governors go, we got a coalition here. Do not try and take over Shelby Park. And then the president looks weak. He's just like, well, what are you doing? So he's trying to say stuff about the pending legislature that may or may not come around. That's probably just dead the minute it comes out because it's not a realistic and it's not a long-term solution to the border policy. So he's trying to say stuff that makes him look good as far as, if I'd have a secure border if the Republicans would only help out. We need some more funding. We need some more funding. Remember when Biden was walking to the plane the other day? I think it was early last week. And he's like, if I just had they should give me the funds I need to secure the border. You've had them. You've had the tools. And you look at where we are. Record levels of people coming across the border illegally. Not legally, illegally. So exactly which job does the border protection actually need to cut that razor wire for? Which part? Because to me, if you're not doing anything, you're just letting people in. Maybe they need more forklift action. Maybe that's what they're saying. Should they just come right out and say forklifts for everybody? Got to get as many illegals in as we possibly can while trying to convince you that we're dead serious about a closed border. That's what I'm going to leave you with. Love to have you subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next one. And don't forget to check out whatever podcast we've got going, live stream down at Take Back. What is it again? I forget the website. This is the website. TakeOurBorderBack.com. See you there. Thanks for being here.